Friday Heaters, the podcast. On this week's episode, we're sitting down with painter Tidawhitney Lek. Tida's work sits somewhere between memory and imagination, biographical in feeling, often figurative, but never fully literal. She's part of a new wave of painters coming out of LA who are building their own lane and letting the work speak for itself. We're going to get into her background, her process, and the moment she decided to go all in on painting. Let's heat it up. Tida, thank you so much for joining us on the Friday Heaters podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
I was going to say, too, we had Joe Palmer on from Custom Art Surfaces on our recent episode, and he mentioned that you had worked for him at one point and was kind of celebrating the fact that, like, there's a lot of artists that have come through and worked for them. For those that don't know, they make all sorts of different custom surfaces that artists paint on, canvases, panels, and various things. And a big joy for him is having employees that sort of graduate beyond their role at his business, because a lot of artists work for him. And he said, you are one of those artists. And I was curious to ask you, what was on paper for you in that moment where you're like, okay, now is the time where I can stop working for Joe and I can start going all in on my own practice because I'm making enough money to support myself?
Oh, it was a great story. Because I was like, I think at that point what was I doing? I was definitely working at Joe's place. And I was also working as an art assistant. I was working for Danielle Dean. She's represented by the 47 Canal and Commonwealth on her work. And I had 3 phone calls that day. It was this is 2021. And this is like shortly after I had my first in-person group show in Los Angeles. It was a great group of artists. I think Mario was in there. Alfonso was in there. A good batch. I remember being like, okay, cool. This one, this one, yes.
That's good company.
And also another 2-person show had just happened. So I had 3 phone calls. The first one, I believe, was from the first group show gallery. And they found out I was working art assistant. And they're like, yeah, I think you should quit your job. And I was like, man, that's too soon. I was like, I just show just happened. I was like, I don't know.
As an art assistant, what's your role? Like, you're working for another artist, and what are you doing for that artist?
In this case, the artist that I'm working for, she's like a animation installation artist. Okay. So there's a lot of video. There's a lot of, what I was doing was the watercolors. So I would do like selective imagery that she would take from archives based on her project, and I would just configure them and then produce them in the manner that she wanted them in. Okay. And the scales started off really small. They were like 11 by 17 inches, which is very manageable. But the project got so big that the watercolors went to like 8 by 4 feet.
Whoa.
Yeah,
that's a big watercolor.
I was like sitting on top of them while I was painting. So everything was project by project based, and then she kept it pretty. I would say like it's really tough being an art assistant because nothing's consistent, basically. Yeah. You know, there's no security in that position, but I definitely learned a lot, took a lot from it. All of that practice ended up intertwining with my own, because the watercolor, she had me doing watercolor, and I ended up investing that technique into the process of how I produce my paintings. Cool. Including the artist that I worked for previously, Amir Fallah, which he like executes his work in acrylic paints. So I actually figured out how to master that medium. Cool. Whereas in school, I actually studied strictly on like oil paints, and dabbled in other such, but all of that ended up influencing how I make work today. Okay. So the second phone call was from the other group, 2-person show. It's another gallerist, and I told her the same situation. I was just all like, "You're working." She's like, "I think you need to quit." And I was all like, "Oh, okay, yeah." You know, on my head, I'm all like, too soon. I was all like, "I don't know, guys." I was like, "There's nothing for sure. Whatever. Okay, cool." And the third call was Joe. And I had put in an order for a upcoming solo show the following year.
Okay.
And he saw the order.
Yeah.
And I can't remember why I got the phone call, but I remember at the end of the phone call, he was just like, "Yeah, Tida, these are a lot of canvases. I think you should quit." After that, I was like,
3 in a row.
I said, "Okay, I think I should quit."
Yeah.
And that's what sealed the deal. The following week, I was like, "Danielle, I gotta leave," and then I let Joe know, and they sent off their blessings.
Yeah.
And it's been beautiful.
So you quit. What is that first week, first month like after you quit your day job?
Ooh.
When you just jump into like, I'm an artist now?
And did you have like money saved up that made that possible, or was there still kind of this aspect like, oh shit?
Oh, guys, I didn't even give you no context. I was broke as shit. I had nothing, you know? Like Joe and his buddies, like while I was still working there, I remember like it was the day of my birthday and I like had no money in the bank account, probably only like $500. I owed studio rent money the next, like literally in a few days. I owed a house rent money, and then I found out my catalytic converter got jacked.
Ugh.
Sucked.
Prius?
I had a Honda CR-V.
Oh yeah.
2004.
Okay. I feel like the
Pandemic.
the catalytic converters were going fast back then. Yeah.
Straight up in front of the house. I was like, how dare you? So they pitched in money and helped me. So it was really scary. And I just was at that point was so ready, because the last 3 years or 4 years of me was prepare me all to that point of having like this solo show. Because I don't think I really did any, like, yes, I did shows here and there and presented group shows, but nothing on that caliber of like, I guess into the circuit of the art market space. I had already been on a roll with my own work, felt very comfortable with what I have to say, just even verbally, but was pretty much like I had anxiety the whole time, couldn't decide my feelings, but knew one thing for sure: I quit my job. So I was all like, you better make this shit. I already put in the orders, you know. I was all like, well, use these canvases. So I was all like, figure something out. Wow. And I had a studio. I made sure even after I left school that I should have this studio space, because it was the only space that I could really call my own and like be just at peace with my own sanity.
How many canvases did you order from Joe in that swing?
In that swing, roughly probably like 12 canvases.
Yeah.
Various sizes, you know, but I mean, my go-to size that I love to paint, that's like, I guess medium big, is like a 6 by 4 feet.
Okay. Nice. Just because, why is that your favorite?
I think it definitely has to do with the relationship to the body proportion. There's something about like when you hang it in a house too, because I'm considering like when you hang it being accessible to hang it in a house, but also like big enough where the body just feels like it could fall into it, or even just kind of like hand reach to it. So that's ended up being like a doorway that kind of confirmed that I like the size. Nearly to life size scale is where I'm playing with a lot of perspective.
It feels like there's this balance of artistry, but also practicality and sort of the business side of making art.
All the time. So.
And I think that's, I guess I just, as a someone who talks with a lot of artists, I really appreciate or respect that a big part of what you do is a business, you know, and like making a living for yourself. Where does that sit for you in terms of what you want to make, but also thinking about where it fits in sort of a consumer product space, I guess?
Yeah, the practicality part. Storage. Storage is like a big deal. Everybody, I mean, like, you don't even have to be an artist to be concerned about storage, you know what I mean? So I had to think of a medium. I did think about this actually before I graduated, where I said, you know, less is best, less is more. If you can be impactful in a way where you're spending more time than you're probably spending money, you know, because time is probably the most expensive thing you have. So I really did think about like space, how to occupy space. If I'm going to take up space, right? What's the most clever way that I could probably take up space? And I'm thinking of objects at this point, because I'm interested in using my hands. I'm interested in creating something or building some sort of object. And paintings made sense because they're so flat versus like a sculptural piece. I knew storing would be totally different.
Do you think storing for you as the artist, or also just storing for the customer, the collector?
The customer and both of us. Because as like a painter, they say things about like unstretching paintings. They're like, oh, once you unstretch a painting, it's already dead. Well, you can't bring it back. Don't even try. I was like, the younger would be like, nah, we get to bring it back. But but the older me would be like, yeah, I'm never stretching you again.
Just because it doesn't look as good, or it loses some of its.
It just definitely does. It just, once you take it off, it's definitely changed the way it was when you had finished it, you know. And then putting it back onto is like, could be a hassle. Many things probably had changed, you know. You have to conserve the work in environments that would make it last. So that's a lot, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I also do think of archival for the surface too, but that would be down the road, because right now I don't make the work where I'm not sure how long they'd last, because they don't have no seal, no nothing. I start off with raw canvas, and then I'll just like start piecing out like the surfaces that I want to engage with. So I'll do like a wash of the sky, usually different colors, and then I'll start cropping in parts of buildings or doorways or gates. And the only thing and those would mainly be acrylic, and then the only thing that's usually oil is like the figure's hair or skin. That's how I usually tend to finish them off. But I do eventually want to just do just oil paintings.
Okay.
That would be nice.
Okay.
But you know, every medium's different. They ask for time differently. So that's the reason why I work the way actually I do too. Yeah. Because oil is much more fickle. It's much more messy. It's much more like, you need that much more respect to the way it demands to take its time drying, or be even pushed around. Acrylic is like super fast. So it's kind of like get to the point, or you either got like really solid colors you're working with, and then you have this also dynamic relationship between drawing and painting. You know, painting like drawing is much more primitive than painting, in my opinion, because drawing, you can opt out color. You know, the whole color theory. Whereas like, I mean, you could do the same thing with painting too, but I think at that point when you get to painting, it's like it has a tendency of having a conversation around like sculpture, just because the fact that the surface uplifts in such a way, you know, it just kind of eats into space and projects this other kind of energy.
I don't think I've ever talked with anyone that, and it could just be my limited experience, but that is combining a lot of acrylic and oil together. It seems to me that what you described is the things that get oil right now in your practice are the more like human form elements. Are those more precious and they need some more of that depth and layer than the acrylic, or?
Not so much because they're precious, because I guess with oil there's this like stillness in the mark making that's more like I don't know how to, like, it captures every sensation of like move, versus acrylic, it like, because it the viscosity kind of just you know what I mean.
For those who are not watching this podcast, is sort of, we're both like kind of plopping our hands like more immediately in front of us, like,
what do you call it, like gravity.
The acrylic just is like, boom, there it is.
Right. That's like the big difference between the two. The way gravity is having to work with it. And I think it's also too kind of like how the pigment is responding with the binder. I think they're just totally different effects.
Okay. And so in this case, we're getting into the weeds a little bit, but you said the hair, the skin, human qualities that get that oil, that get that depth in your paintings right now?
It's all in combination with like the composition between oil, acrylic, pastel, and like raw, like watercolor ground. Like that has like a balance going on.
Okay.
And I'm considering it. It's also like a practical thing because like oils are pretty expensive compared to everything else.
Yeah.
So I was all like, okay, we can hold off on like, you know, doing just oil paintings.
Yeah. I like that. There again, it's practicality. It's the business side. And they still look good. They're still heaters.
Thank you.
You got into it a little bit of like taking that leap of faith. You strike me as someone who has that ability to just go for it. Where do you think that comes from for you, that ability to just, okay, go for it?
I feel like I've did a pretty good job listening to everybody else but my family.
Did that work out or not work out?
It worked out.
Yeah, okay, so that's what you chose to do then. Okay.
And I did actually sat and thought about like why is that? And I think it has to do with this misunderstanding of the American dream. There's that. And there's also this misunderstanding of how we nurture relationships, and also just tolerating them. I realized there was a lot of things that I disagreed with. But being kid number 6, you don't have a lot of your voice is very small.
Yeah.
So you just have to, I think for the most part, I did a lot of really good observing. And that's what kind of helped weighed my decision. Comparing, I think comparing really helped inform my decision. And I listened to my family for a long time. I did have so many, it was like the teachers, like all of the teachers I had really did pull me to the side. It was all like, hey, you have something. I hope you know. And that stuck by me. Yeah. Like I had that even all the way up until college.
What do you think that something was that they were experiencing from you?
I guess I would call it like energy. The other way I would describe it is like, I'm an angry woman.
Yeah.
I'm so unhappy. I'm angry about it. And I don't know how to channel the frustration. And I think they could see that I can figure out a way to calmly manifest it in art. That's probably one of the things I realized, or they realized in me. And even right now, I'm still kind of like, oh wow, I still can't believe it. I still feel like an imposter. I still don't understand how to, or I'm still trying to reckon like coexisting as like, oh, this artist who's made it, but still, dealing with the same reality shit that everybody else is.
Can I ask, like, where does some of the anger come from, or what it revolves around?
It's the misunderstanding part, and I used to take it out actually on my mom.
Okay.
But it's all because I didn't understand.
Why were you angry at your mom, or angry and then put it out on her?
Well, it was a toxic relationship. That was the one that kind of like started the anger, because I was mad at myself for being in the relationship. Okay. And I was like, well, you have to take the blame because you made the decision to be in the relationship. And then I went into like, well, I know that I'm not asking for trouble, like I'm just trying to figure something out. So how did I end up there? And then I just started thinking about like myself as a woman. Why do I tolerate the things I do? And growing up in the household I am, my mom's actually old fashioned. So the expectation between the marriage between my dad was like, you're the housewife, you have a lot of kids with me, you help cook and clean. And it really held her back from bringing out the best potential in herself. I think she also threw that frustration back on us. So that actually is probably that's why part of the reason why I kind of like, you know, but then I understand it's all just misunderstanding, you know. And I was young. They don't know, you know, how to really, they're just working with each other, even though it's not the best. So it's also too, like, if you can imagine, like, my older siblings, they're probably in the same dilemma. And they're also probably unhappy. And it's like, they don't know what to do with that frustration. So, sorry, guys, but you guys are bullies. You guys are bullies, but I love you. And I saw that when I was young. I took notice of it. And I had a hard time forgiving them because I was just like, you guys are so mean. But only until like after the painting, actually, when everything became, was taking off for me, it was the first time they were actually taking a look at what I was having to say about them. And with that being said, it was just like, okay, let me listen to what you have to say about us. And it helped relieve this or liberate us from this like sadness that we grew up with, I guess, in our early elementary, middle school, high school days.
It's almost like your artwork, not only for yourself, but for your siblings, like revealed what maybe you all had experienced or had gone through.
Because we never talked about it, actually. That's probably what it was. So it helped me, and it also helped them. When
I see your artwork at a gallery or at a fair, it's like I see it and I'm like, oh, there's a Tida piece. There are elements where it fairly quickly to me, I think even before I read about the work, exudes a sense of family or of whether it's maternal presence, mothers, daughters. Oftentimes I feel like female figures. I felt some of the biographical sense in the figures that you're painting. So I see all those elements, and then I'm hearing you talk about your family right now, and in some ways there is a reverence and an honor in your paintings. When I see them, and it's like someone is like looking to kind of celebrate and bring beauty to those elements, whether it's family, domestic setting, or this natural setting that I learned is, I think, references to Cambodia.
References to Cambodia, also just like vegetation that is naturally around like the domestic scene, the garden, because my parents are a green thumb. But I do try to mix in like plants that do come from Cambodia. So you kind of like mesh between these locations, right? Long Beach, for me, is in this case Long Beach and Sok Mai.
Okay. You never grew up in Cambodia then?
No, never.
Okay. But some of that experience, I'm just thinking of like Khmer Rouge and like that history. Your parents, I'm assuming, are coming from that era?
Yeah, they come from that era. So they went through it during their adolescence.
Okay. Do you feel like that part of that storyline, even though you didn't live it, is definitely showing up in your life and then eventually in your artwork?
Yeah, it definitely showed up because that was one of the topics that my parents didn't want to talk about in the house. I remember having high school assignments from history class and having to engage with our parents about certain things, and my dad wasn't interested in talking about it. There was another time I had to do it again, and he like teared up. And I was like, he never really says, both my parents don't really say much, but they'll drop statements once in a while, like when we say things like, oh, I'm starving, there's nothing to eat, and he'd be like, ha, you don't even know what starving means. But I do have memories of this book that my father wrote, a biography, and my two older sisters was hanging around the desk, and he was telling them stories that he was writing down for his biography of like things that happened during the Khmer Rouge. One is when he like almost died from eating frog eggs. He thought they were raisins because they had dried up and they looked pruny like raisins. Whoa. But they ended up being frog eggs, and it like absorbed the fluids in his stomach, and it became like a, what do you call it? A fully...
Like a sponge, or like a reverse sponge? Or it was sponge and then
Yeah, exactly. There's a good bunch of us that just want to forget. I mean, there's a whole mass of them that probably do want to forget. So with my parents, it was just like that wave of Cambodians that came. They were just all, I mean, the entire nation was just damaged. And I think they had no access to like therapy or anything like that. So you ended up with a pretty dark cloud that stuck around for a long time. I mean, at that point, a new generation was being made, and then the next and the next. And, you know, after, I mean, you can already mess it up on the next one if you don't tell your children, you know, where their roots come from. And I felt like that was definitely missing for me, because by the time I came around in the house, like number 6, my parents were tired. Right.
Yeah.
Totally tired. Like, I actually have a language barrier with my mom. I'm not fluent in her tongue.
Okay.
But my dad speaks pretty good English.
Okay.
So it had always been a struggle to actually kind of see the eye to eye with my mother because of that.
And is there a like Khmer community like pretty large in Long Beach, or?
It was heavily large in the 80s.
Okay.
And that was when that was like the third Indo-Chinese wave of immigrants that came. And the regime happened in I believe was it the 70s?
70s, yeah. I think
Yeah.
70s, yeah.
Just after the Vietnam War. I mean, the Vietnam War is the precursor to why the Cambodian government collapsed. So I bring that up too, because that's probably my grandmother's generation.
Okay.
And my grandmother on my mother's side is pretty interesting, because they never actually said too much about her for me growing up, but they were my mom actually was all like, yeah, well, I don't want you getting too close to her, because she's not a great person. I knew that she was a gambler, and that caused a lot of problems in the house. And she drank and she smoked a lot. I wouldn't say she was like a bad grandma, but she wasn't a good grandma either. I mean, she would ask me to borrow money from me all the time. I was like, yeah, for gambling grandma? I don't think so. She definitely had an interesting past, because after she passed away, then kind of like more of the truth of her or of like what she went through was coming out. And my grandma went through a lot. And when I understood that part of the story, then I looked at my mom and I was like, oh my goodness, there's so much more to you than like I understood. And so that kind of like shifted through the work. Like, I just started shifting this perspective, like, female narrative, the immigration story, the chasing the American dream, like living in such a disconnected space where I'm not like I haven't been, we haven't been celebrating our roots, where we've just been trying to survive somewhere else. So it's all been a mesh of that the last, I would say, like the representational stuff I didn't start doing until I left school. So I graduated in 17, so now it's been about almost 10 years. 9 years.
So that was the question I was going to ask, is was that a deliberate choice to start making artwork that is referencing or inspired or influenced by your own biography and family, or was it a more organic process where it somewhat flowed out of you?
I knew it was coming, actually, and I knew it as an undergrad because the department was split. Remember I told you that?
Oh yeah, abstract and figurative. Yeah.
So the figurative, I was curious once I got to like, I was heading towards my senior courses, but I kept bumping heads with the faculty head for the figurative department. It was like 1, 2, after the third argument, I was just like, yeah, I'm not fucking with you no more. Like, this ain't it. Like, this ego trip is not what I want to be dealing with. I'm not trying to do nothing,
Yeah.
And so I held it off, but I was approached by another professor, and she was very curious to hear my story, who I am. And she was just like, why don't you like paint about yourself? And I think because she understood I was struggling with subject matter. I was like, I don't know what to talk about. Like, I can have a ball with this abstract, ambiguous kind of landscape, a playground and composition, all that stuff. But, finding something building work that's worth having a conversation around,
Mm-hmm.
that's like, totally something else. When I was approached that question, I actually just pushed it to the side because I was so unhappy. I was like, I'm not ready for that. I'm not interested, so I told her. And
Good deflection.
it was only until I probably met Amir Fallah, who did the acrylic paintings.
And you were working for Amir.
I was working for him. So first art assistant gig, and he does representational work. Interestingly enough, he doesn't really do the face either. But he does do portraiture. And it was really great to just be in his studio and just see how he was processing how to still talk about that conversation without having to reveal, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, that's probably the direction I should be heading into. And I should rewind, actually. A year before I graduated school, I saw this retrospective show with Kerry James Marshall at Mocha.
Yeah, I saw that show.
Amazing.
That show was killer.
That definitely threw the light bulb in the head. That I was all like, oh, in terms of figurative, this seems like the avenue you might go into, Tida. I was like, because I love detail just as much as I love kind of this like ambiguous take or just kind of gestural, very play, or improv kind of composition. I also like to just slow down and just like appreciate this, like the nuance. And I saw that there was a sweet spot with Kerry James Marshall. I understood that. And so I kind of just waited for all of that kind of make sense for me, because I was still trying to blend all these different compartments that I understood about drawing and painting. And it wasn't until 2020 everything melted, and then 21 the timing was right. The subject matter, the family.
Oh, yeah.
That, like, it took a while. 2020 is when I had the words, but I basically spent 2018 deconstructing myself. Like, if you look at the work then, it's a lot more abstract.
Okay.
Still representational, still clear in imagery, but the play and how these images kind of make the meet at the seams is the play of picture plane. It's like that thing where like Jaime Munoz, how he kind of like compresses this flatness on top. That's kind of like what I started playing with in that realm, but still like want to make sure it's with the brush, still want to make sure it's like drawing materials, it's very traditional medium still. Or even techniques in a sense too, just very forward. As I'm deconstructing in 18, I would say 19, I'm like putting myself back together. I'm like, okay, I like how I put this image with this image. I was like, oh, I'm choosing to be more selective with images. I don't want to just pull them from the internet anymore. I want to take photos. Like I started being more particular about how I wanted to capture perspective. And that's where like the scale of the canvases came in, the dimensions, the life-size proportion of imagery, the doorways. They just started kind of like falling into place. And then by 2020, the figures that were coming into the frame, it began with utilizing myself, just trying to figure out the best way to configure parts of a body into the work, or even just the gesture of movement. That slowly went into just like, oh, maybe my relatives can help step in for the figure. But I had to be sure. Like, I was like, you can't just like use someone's likeness just because you want to. You gotta make sure that your emphasis is true to this narrative that you're building around. And so I that's where I kind of be like, damn, I don't know if my family is gonna like what I have to say about them, but maybe we'll just make this very like not so direct as possible.
It reminds me of songwriting in my music days, like definitely pulling on some familial stories and influences to write songs about, and the same kind of thing. It's like, do I want to use their exact name, or like maybe it's just another person that I'm referencing that softens a little bit of the delivery, like because when they cue this song up, it might hit.
It's necessary, You're trying to like transition all the feelings.
Yeah, but at the same time, you get more used to it. It's like, no, if the song or the painting is better because it's a little bit more true to whatever the message is, whatever that story is that's about that specific person, then sometimes you just got to run it.
It's true. You got to be deliberate. No half-ass.
Yeah. Don't hold back. I feel like holding back my senses after we've been talking is not something that you've struggled with, whether that's challenging a professor or...
I mean, I've sweated for things that I like. There were I guess like another great memory too of like things happening for me, because I should mention this, like was when there's this artist that I haven't seen in a minute, Gabriela Sanchez. She was one of Joe's clients, and I had to drop off a piece to her. I had found out that one of the collectors that saved... Oh, so I didn't even tell... Sorry, I'm jumping all over these places. After that day I told you I had nothing in my bank account. It was my birthday, and I was like, fuck, blah, blah, blah. What saved me is like 2 weeks after that, an artist came by, and he bought a painting for the actual price out of the studio. And it saved me. Of yours? Yeah. Saved me a month for rent. And then 2 weeks after that, another collector comes by, and he buys the bigger pieces, the 6x4, and he actually pays for like the price. And it saves me like another 3 months. And that's what helped propelled me until the 2021's group show.
I was going to ask about that because like if my timing was right, I was like, you still got like 8 or 10 months that you got to make between quitting work with Joe and then getting to that first show.
Going back to the second collector that bought my work, he mentioned that he owned Gabriela Sanchez's work. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm familiar with her, because I knew that she works, she's one of the clients for Joe, and and I was off to do a delivery. So I was really nervous that day, and I was all like, how do I bring this up? Or I was like, I don't want to sound stupid. I'm not trying to be like, give me a handout. I just want to be like, hey, do you know this collector? I don't know who he is. He just bought my work, blah, blah, blah. But if you could give me all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I chickened out.
Oh.
Yeah.
You chickened out?
I chickened out.
I can't believe it. I feel like...
I was all like, I was sweating too much.
I would have not taken that bet. I would have bet that you would have just gone for it.
So then I was really mad at myself.
Okay.
I actually remember driving home and being like, why did you do that? Blah, 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 blah. Just really being hard on myself. And then the next day I come into work, I hear that we have to go and deliver another one. And I got to go back. And I was like, okay, God told you to rectify this. Yeah. And I did the whole thing. And that ended up leading her to come do a studio visit with a collector. And she posts the story on Instagram. And that's what led me into the group show.
Okay.
In 21.
With all of these dominoes that start to like fall into place after you make that decision, as you reflect on it, what do you think of making sense of all of that sort of synchronicity of things lining up? Are you a spiritual person? Do you feel like there's some higher power at play, or just the way the world works when you take that leap of faith?
I do believe in a higher power, because you can ask for all the control that you want, and you still don't get to have it all. And I feel like I don't go looking for trouble, but I make a lot of innocent trouble.
Good trouble, maybe one would say.
I mean, curious. And I think if I could just, or like like even I even think about time, like that being a currency that we just are forced to spend. Like rechanneling the energy that I be given best and just redistributing it in the best sense possible is like a best way to live. because even the idea of like human life is like, when I just think of like a generation, it's not even that long.
Yeah.
It's not that long, right? And
Yep.
and if you want to make a difference, are you going to be able to accomplish it in your lifetime, or is it going to be the next generation that reap all the benefits? And I was like, you have to be okay with that too. You know,
Yeah.
you might not see it during your time, but the whole point is that it's supposed to be beyond your time.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, which takes some humility to accept that. So much good stuff. Whew. So then, okay, so I think where I last remember we were kind of evolving into the figurative work side of your family history, Cambodia. That starts to show up in your artwork. Maybe next up, just for today then, going back on like, I see your work now. To me, it's very distinguished. It's very distinct. I know your work. Where are you at right now? You're like a known commodity, which is awesome. So great. Does that then keep you confident to just keep hammering that for the next 3 years, 5 or 10 years? Or are you starting to explore what's next and trying to evolve out of that and into the next subject matter? Where do we catch you today?
I felt like I've done a great job establishing myself in the circuit in terms of the art market community. But I'm still a baby is what I understand, because a lot of the peers that I do work with or colleagues, especially those who have like decades ahead of me, I see that their sense of trajectory and, you know, how they see the future or plan for it is on a greater scale than I've experienced. You know, they're thinking already like 5, 10, 15, 20 in the art world sense. And that is something I'm noticing, like I'm paying attention or being aware of. In terms of my practice, I'm at this place where I would love to actually take my time absorbing other artists. I'm pretty jealous of you because you must be exposed to so much art. Like I'm trapped in the studio, I feel like, for the most part, and would really love to just I think the next few years probably be a little more quiet. Still gonna consistently be working in the studio, but more reserved in terms of presentations. I am being challenged to say like, okay, what more do you have to offer than what you've already done? Like being Southeast Asian American, you know, you're talking about your Cambodian background, this generational history. There is a formula that's been working with me in terms of the subject matter, and that's like these historical context paintings that I make, because they keep the conversation going and pretty relative to today's topics. That is an engine that I think I'm going to keep running with. I do see like the evolution of my work definitely changing as decades go by, because I started off as an abstract painter. I have big love for that kind of work, but in my head I always felt like it was a much more privileged space to play in, because of the way your mind has to just kind of condition itself. Whereas figurative is just very, or figurative or imagery or representation is much more digestible.
Yeah, it's more direct. Yeah.
It's just, you could linger with it a lot more easier. And with that being said, I am thinking about my role as not just an artist, but as an individual amongst other communities. If I can, in my younger years, you know, tackle a lot of the bust open a lot of the doors, you know, for the generation after, then I will do that. And since I already feel like the abstraction work, like if like that is something I do want to evolve back into, could wait, you know, until I've proven to everyone in my career as well as to myself that, you know, this is what I should be doing next. Yeah. But in terms of like the next thing now, I am gonna do a solo show at night this year in November.
Oh, great.
That scale of a show is something new to me. So that's kind of like the transition I'm working with myself.
Night Gallery, for those who are not familiar. Shout out.
I'll also be doing a Venice residency in Italy.
Sweet.
And that's with Victoria Miro Gallery.
Okay.
And that's for 6 weeks. So I'm really just kind of spending at least definitely this year recalibrating, but still just making sure I keep up producing work or just, keep stuff going in the studio.
We were talking about surrender before we started recording today, and there's a sense of that, I think, in what you just described of you've hustled and really grinded and networked and put this great effort over the last, let's say it's 2018, 19, 20, whatever, until today, 2026. It's like that's a 5-6 year solid run of like push. And you've made a name for yourself, and that feels like an appropriate, perhaps, next phase of a little bit of surrender, a little bit of step back to recharge the creative battery or see what the next effort, the next swing is going to be.
The other thing too is like when I came up, I came up during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Right. So it was just really, really like high, and everybody was like really happy, and like the floodgates were open.
Industry was booming. Everybody was selling art. Everybody was buying art.
And then the just like slowly start dipping, and then the drop happened. Everybody was being a little delusional. I was like, hey man.
We've covered that in some of our conversations on heaters the last couple of months. So
this is like everything's reacclimating back itself.
Yeah.
Reacclimating. Yeah.
This is the first time it's just occurred to me when you were like, oh, I'm so jealous of you. You get to see so much art, which we do. I feel like it's often us saying the reverse to the artist whenever we talk about like music, podcasts, books on tape. I feel like the artists get to just crush that landscape because you're in the studio all day working on your own, and you just get to like listen to whatever you want as you
lonely. It's so lonely.
Do you do a lot of music? Do you podcast, books on tape?
I do everything. I'll watch podcasts from time to time, music. I watch the news. But honestly, most times it's pretty quiet.
Okay.
I think no noise is better.
Yeah.
Stillness, silence is a great place for reflection. There's a lot of reflecting, a lot of just like I'm toiling with my mind, a lot of pacing. I'm just also a very like particular person in the studio with just like how things function, like things gotta have its place. I'm pretty sure you see, right? You have, there's like things have to be a workable station. So, and there's always just lots to do. Like I make a mess and I gotta clean up the mess. So there's always just so much. And I do freak out because I'm like wondering, how do I deal with this capacity? And like I think of other artists that have like a team,
At this point, no team. Not team. Rushing to build a team yet.
Yeah. This journey is just like, I think solo was the thing I signed up for in a sense. Are
you someone who has a real defined routine week to week? What's the average day look like for you? Or is it a little more punk rock and loose and figure it out as you go?
It's pretty loosey-goosey actually, because I come in a lot. I come in at least 5 days a week because of the commute. I usually get stuck in I would say I'm stuck in LA from up until the end of rush hour.
Okay.
So I come in at least by 9, sometimes 11.
Are you in Long Beach? And are you living in Long Beach? Yeah.
And it's usually like a 45-minute commute.
Okay.
And I either leave by 2 or 3, and the commute's not bad, or you don't leave at all until you leave at 7:30 or
Makes sense.
I'm just like, okay, so then that helps just force me to be in the studio, and that I work around that routine. I do have a schedule and kind of like I could see the way my body operates. It's like 3 days of really good working sessions, and then maybe a day or two you're just kind of like can't be in the studio. I usually go in all the time because I don't know how to describe this. Like I'm kind of a boring person. I don't I don't even go enough. I don't go out enough at all, or I didn't really know how to go out. If you can imagine, I was so broke. I just kind of didn't really. I chose to just have my studio, then go out to, and I can't even really drink. I have like the Asian glow, and like half a can of beer just does it.
I think boredom is, it's not sexy, but it's like, in terms of the creative arts, like it's so crucial. I think
Boredom,
I think you have to get bored at some point
Yeah,
to create then something that is not boring. Maybe
it makes sense because I usually go wandering.
yeah.
I'm like, I just want something new or like fresh. Like I don't want to deal with the same old thing again.
Yeah.
And that's usually where I tend to kind of find the next narrative of what I want to talk about in terms of the work.
Yeah.
When it started, it was like family. I wandered back to family, and I'm all like, well, I don't really see you, older sister or older brother. Let me like try to get to know you one more time. And then next thing you know, it's like a therapy session, and one of them's crying. But it helped.
Yeah.
And I've never actually probably really done this with my friends too much. I'm doing it more often now. It's also interesting too, because like we're at that age, like in our 30s, and it's such a, I'm noticing like, it's like we're getting older, we need maintenance, and some of us don't stick around, like people start passing on, then all the conversation shifts.
Yeah.
So that I feel like those are things that like I go wandering for. And that's part of the recipe of like the artwork. It's like you do have to leave room for you to kind of just something spontaneous to happen, and usually that sets off the rest of everything else.
Yeah. In terms of just how you present yourself, whether that's fashion, aesthetic, do you consciously think about how that plays into your identity as an artist, the way in which you show yourself in the world?
Yeah, I think it does matter. There is something about being able to blend yourself within many other communities. And that probably has to do with being open, to why this aesthetic or fashion is making waves, or at least making an influence.
In terms of like fashion industry and art industry and design industry commingling together?
More like, well, why do people catch on with it? Like, why this color, or like even like why this cut, why this shape?
Yeah.
Like it, because then you start thinking about like my body, and it's not like the ones that they use for like high end. The models are much
like
taller, much
tall,
slender.
slender.
It's kind of like it wouldn't make sense for me. So I gotta at that point kind of go within what fits my mold, and then you start realizing like, oh, other people have the very similar molds like I do, and even the kind of hair, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
And I think there's also this part of just liberating your sense of curiosity of what is possible for you in terms of the persona that you want to carry. Like that's like confidence. There is also this thing with like fashion is also art,
Right.
there's like composition to the way things are considered to the body, how moves through space or flow in space. It's also like demanding attention and taking up space with this sense of presence that I'm also thinking about in terms of aesthetic and fashion.
Being an artist and what we associate sometimes with like what an artist looks like, or how an artist sometimes might be more creative or expressive in what they wear. Is that something that you identify with and get excited about, or kind of feel like, I don't really want to make my life around fashion or looking like an artist?
I think it all depends on the person if they like it or not, because it all takes work.
Yeah, right.
Right?
No, another thing to allocate bandwidth to.
And it is expensive, and it is another community. But but it doesn't mean that they don't intercept each other and they don't coexist with each other. I guess I'm not thinking about it too much for me.
Cool.
I just enjoy it more of like I could be another form of being creative.
Yeah. Most artists too, like the work wear in your daily practice is often very practical, covered in debris or paint or whatever it may be. And so there is this sort of labor wardrobe with what occupies most of your day. Then the switch to like gallery world, social settings, culture, and expression in a urban center like LA really whiplashes away from what artists are going to be putting on their body in their studios. And so it's really, you really more than someone who works a more corporate or desk job, that an evening outfit might not be that too dissimilar than what they would be wearing during the day.
That's a great point actually that you make out, because like it would be like finding the right uniform for the right event or occasion of what's going on, because there's always something happening right in the art world.
Yeah.
So with that being said, it's like it actually makes more sense that the fashion world is so intertwined, just because there's an opportunity to always present something new, because their clothes usually is not practical.
Yeah. The fashion heads really, you know them when you see them, which we respect.
Yes.
We admire you.
I love them heels.
Aspirationally, I have those times in my life. I don't always hit it, but I do aspire to. Coming out of this era where to be a great artist, you had to survive off of like coffee and cigarettes, and that was it. And now we're sort of in this, like, maybe being in LA, especially in this new era of like health and wellness, and artists can take care of themselves in addition to be great artists. Do you have any health and wellness practices that you include in your daily routine?
I roller skate.
Nice. Okay, that's a heaters first. You're the first roller skating athlete that we've had on the pod.
Definitely enjoy taking it out on the body.
Okay.
If possible. I think that's actually a super helpful way of just like when you can't do it in the head, you just like let your body fly, right?
Yeah.
Just take a run, or
you're not talking like roller derby, like throwing blows and competing, more of just an elegant, graceful roller skate.
Make that body sweat
on the boardwalk.
Yeah, at least something like that.
Yeah.
Because it just really, I feel like your temple, your body is just as important as your mind. You can't function without the two.
Yeah.
Like, even in the studio when I'm painting, I can tell when my mind is too tired, even though my body could probably keep going. And that's when you have to listen. It's like, you're going to fudge up this painting. Your body wants to do something.
Yeah.
So go take your body elsewhere.
Ooh, that's very wise. Yeah.
And that's also in a sense why there's usually like more than one painting going on. Okay, don't mess with this one if you're going to act like this. Go over there.
Yeah.
And then if like you don't want to be at the studio, it's not like, girl, don't show up. Go to the beach.
Yeah.
So I do listen to myself like that. Do you do stuff like that?
For sure. Yeah. I've been, I think, both in like a good and bad way, like attention throughout my adulthood has been fully immersed in the creative arts whilst pursuing some sort of regimented like physical exercise practice. And I'm a diabetic too, so I think that plays into it a little bit. Like my body is happier and healthier when I'm going to the gym every day. And like my blood sugar stays better regulated. And I think just my personality type too. Like I'm like you, or kind of maybe similar to how you're describing painting. With all the stuff we're doing with heaters, it's like scheduling interviews, preparing, kind of getting creative with you, talking, editing, putting the final takes together. John and I go out and film stuff, and there's a performative element. It's kind of creative and relational and dynamic. All of that is loose, and you kind of are always figuring it out as you go. And then I think going to the gym every day or having a pretty regimented like health nut diet or whatever helps me ground in some sort of routine or structure when everything else is like I don't know. We're making it up as we go.
Gives it some balance, some control.
Yeah. So like your painting is kind of like my creative heaters flow, and then your roller skating is like my gym and sauna time.
Exactly. Gotta make the routine. Repetition is good too, probably. Yeah. That's also the word that I hang on to. I'm like, repetition is like affirmation.
Yeah.
Repetition is like adding more to the definition.
When you say repetition, it makes me think of just the discipline that any of us have to do when you're like trying to get good at something, especially with getting good at something creative, where like inspiration strikes, creativity strikes, and like, oh wow, you're just in the flow and it happens. But that doesn't just happen, and that's not how you can't build something just relying on those brief moments where it does click. You still need to be disciplined and in a routine where you're painting every day or
sharp.
Yeah.
Gotta be sharp.
Yeah. This was great. I feel like we covered a lot of wonderful ground.
I'm glad you guys enjoyed that.
Yeah. Thank you so much for swinging by.
Thank you.
Yeah, Friday Heaters. We'll catch you next time on the pod. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.